It's time for Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright. Have you ever wondered if there's more to life than you're currently living? Then Success Profiles Radio is the program for you. Every week, we'll explore different aspects of success and how to apply them to your life. Guests will come from many different backgrounds, including expertise in leadership, business, relationships, careers, networking, health, overcoming adversity, and much more. Every show is a dose of inspiration. This is Success Profiles Radio. And now, here's your host, Brian K. Wright.
Hello and welcome to Success Profiles Radio. I'm your host, Brian K. Wright, and it is an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. I'm honored that you chose to spend part of your day with me here, and this is going to be a fantastic and amazing show. I'll be introducing my guest shortly, and I promise this is going to be a lot of fun. I do want to take a minute or two to share some things I've been learning and thinking about lately, and I will usually do this every single week. And before I forget, this episode is brought to you by Phone Sites. With Phone Sites, you can build a website or sales funnel from your mobile device in 5 minutes or less without any technical skills or without downloading an app. Try it free for 14 days at phonesites.com/Brian. That's B-R-I-A-N, phonesites.com/Brian. A few years ago, I spoke for a local high school at their commencement ceremony, and I had a really great time speaking for them. One of my favorite stories that I share is about integrity. I'm sure a lot of you remember the TV show The Brady Bunch. There was an episode where the oldest son, Greg, expressed an interest in being known as a man of his word. So his dad said, "You have to live by your exact words in order to be known that way." Well, one night, Greg came home from a date and let his parents know that he was home, as he usually does. His dad asked Greg if he mowed the lawn that day, and Greg said, "Oh, he didn't, but he was really tired and he'd do it tomorrow." His dad reminded him that he promised to do it that day. And Greg once again said, "Oh my gosh, Dad, I'm so tired. I'll do it tomorrow." His dad said, "Greg, your exact words." So Greg went outside at midnight and mowed the lawn because he promised to do it that day. Sometimes it's really easy to keep your word, and sometimes it's really hard and inconvenient. And there are times where you just aren't really going to want to. But if you think about it, the people we respect most are those who keep their word and do what they say they're going to do. So resolve this week to keep your word to someone and follow through. You will be so very glad you did, because your reputation does go before you. And before I forget, if you've not picked up my latest book, it's called Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers, Volume 2. It's based on some of the greatest interviews from this show. That volume included interviews with Kevin Harrington, Chris Powell, Dan Locke, Brad Sugars, and so many more. It's 99 cents on Kindle, and the paperback is available. It's on sale. It's less than the $19.99 that it normally is now on Amazon. So pick it up. You'll be so glad you did. My guest this week is Vince Del Monte. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a best-selling author, former WBFF pro fitness model, an online fitness business coach, but more importantly, he's a father of three and a loving husband. For the past 15 years, he's helped thousands of people transform their physiques through his coaching and online programs. Today, Vince is known as one of the world's leading sales and marketing fitness authorities. During this entire journey, he's built a business empire that has consistently generated over $1 million a year for over a decade. While working with online entrepreneurs and business thought leaders, in his high-level 7-figure mastermind and 6-figure coach program, he teaches his clients to quickly scale their businesses and take a quantum leap both mentally and financially. He built his business coaching organization with the intention that if he could help fitness coaches build thriving, ethical businesses that delivered enormous value, that would then help positively impact all the clients that those coaches were serving. We have a lot to unravel today. So here we are with my very special guest, Vince Del Monte. Vince, how are you today?
Ryan, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that intro.
Hey, you're so very welcome. It's really fantastic to have you here. So the very first thing I'd like to ask is, did you envision early in your life that you would be where you are right now?
I didn't. I envisioned myself the way my dad envisioned me, being a high school phys ed teacher and maybe a pastor. My dad was a pastor for 19 years, but I never could see the future, to be honest, much further than a few years after university. So I never was thinking that far out, to be honest. I was always just trying to figure out how to get through the next day and the next week.
Right. And back then we didn't have the technology that we do now. So it's a little harder to conceive that you would be doing what you're doing right now that long ago. I certainly understand that. But you certainly did envision that your life would be revolved around fitness somehow.
Yeah. I visualized myself being a high school phys ed teacher, and that was pretty much all I could see myself doing because I loved athletics.
Yeah.
And when I went to the University of Western Ontario, got a kinesiology degree, I discovered this career. I saw people working in the gym as personal trainers, and I didn't know a whole lot about it. And I didn't know anybody who was actually doing it and making a living from it. But I thought it was really fascinating that people could write workout programs and teach people how to exercise and how to eat and get paid. And that was personally what I was interested in doing for myself, transforming my own physique, because I used to be a long distance runner. I ran for, my university. I represented Canada in triathlon many years ago. So I saw myself doing something with athletics in the endurance world, but I didn't realize that you could transfer that into the gym and build your body and build muscle. My roommates all were muscular, so I was always curious, like if I transferred all this stuff I was doing, on the track and on the trails as a runner, could I maybe build muscle too? And yeah, my world into I guess my journey into the world of personal training just started off with some curiosity.
Wow, that's great. So you morphed your sports and fitness career into a business, and we'll talk a lot more about that later. But I do want to ask right now, what do you see as the relationship between sports and business? What things transferred for you easily?
Oh man, well, I guess everyone wants to figure out their full potential. And what nobody talks about is that to do that, you have to go through a process. And that process is very, very painful.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more time, uh, a lot more effort. In business, it takes a lot more money than anyone anticipates or prepares you for. So I think, a longer process was one of the biggest things. And I think one of the biggest things endurance sport teaches you, athletics teaches you, is how to manage disappointment.
Mm.
In athletics, you're constantly disappointed, right? You're training for these big championship meets. Sometimes you peak, sometimes you have a horrible performance and you're embarrassed, and you don't want to come up for air. You want to stay underneath the hood and not let anybody see you. So it definitely prepares you for disappointment, adversity, in terms of it's just constant frustration, right? In sports, you're on a streak and then you get hurt, and then something's not working with your body, and then you have to try this and you got to try that. And that's what business is all about. I define marketing as a fancy 9-letter word for testing.
Mm.
Right? So just like in business, you have to test things. Same thing with your training, right? Some guys are 60 miles a week. Some guys are running 100 miles a week. And you have to experiment, and you have to realize that, the coach might have the answers, but you have to be involved in the process and give feedback. And that's how you start to discover what's working and what's not working. And that just, again, back to the first question, takes way more time and effort than anybody can mentally prepare you for.
Absolutely. Did you have people around you who told you that you couldn't?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was an average everything. I was an average runner. I was average in school. I was when I got into the world of fitness modeling and that, I was an average competitor. I figured that's what was going to be. Same thing with business. Like, just an average businessman. And there was no one in my family who had ever gone down this entrepreneurial path. And I never knew what was possible. So you see a lot of people around you who start after you, and they catch up, and then they go ahead, and you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? You're going to training camps, and you're in the C group or the B group, and you're wondering, when am I going to get into the A group?
Yeah.
So there's always voices in your head, asking you, like, do you really think you're cut out for this? Why bother? Is it really worth it? Who said that you're qualified? So you have to be able to take those thoughts captive and realize those aren't coming from a place that I believe are holy.
Yeah, I understand that completely. So Vince, what is your big why? What gives you the inspiration to keep going every day?
For me, I'm a product of leveling up, and I think I'm a true believer that if you don't level up, then you're going to level out, or you're going to level off. And I'm I'm just living proof that if you don't quit, you can do something cool. With the term that you the show here called success. My definition of success is being able to have consistent experiences that are sustainable. And what that means for me is that, that I don't have just a good year in business, but I have a good next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Am I building the business in a way that is sustainable? In the gym, I'm not looking to just have one great set of before and after photos, but can I maintain this physique into my 50s and 60s?
Yeah.
So that to me is success. So I think the reason I do what I do is to show people not just that you can do it, but how you can do it. I'm a big believer. It's not if you make the money, it's how did you make the money. It's not if you built your body, it's how did you build your body. Did you pump it on steroids? Did you train 4 hours a day? It's not if you make the $1 million. It's, well, does your family still love you? Do you still have friends? Does your team still respect you? Does the community still look up to you? So I'm a big believer in not what you do, but who you're becoming in the process. So I think that's why I do what I do. I try and show people that, you can have a great business. You don't have to kick your family to the curb. You don't have to work 16-hour days. You don't have to work on weekends, and you can have true impact. And I think that's why I do what I do.
Absolutely. We've got less than a minute to our first break. I do want to ask, what do you think is the highest value skill that anyone can learn?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you've got to be able to sell.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer in either sell or you be sold. And I believe you have to sell people on what they believe is in their best interest to have their best life. And selling is being able to compel that vision and to communicate your value and help people make the right decision. And maybe the right decision is not working with you. So being able to communicate your value in a way for somebody to be able to take the next step that makes sense for their right life is
absolutely
best life.
That's great. All right. And we're coming up at our break. This is Success Profiles Radio. Please stay with us. Don't go away.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
It's words you never heard.
If you're like me, sometimes you have trouble choosing between being a couch potato or going out. Hey, it's a big decision for us Scobberlatchers. A Scobberlatcher or a ragabash is another word for a lazy person. Well, a couple from California seems to have solved the problem by inventing a motorized sofa. You may think they're just spinning their wheels, but people have spotted the couple cruising down the street on their drivable Davenport in West Los Angeles and Santa Monica. No word yet on the couple's identity, but a man claiming to be a relative said it's all well within the norm for his fun-loving cousin. I don't know if this Chesterfield on wheels is street legal, but either way, I think the police would have to put up quite a chase before they could couch him.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Surveys show that 81% of people wish they could, but many never do. If you're one of those people, I can tell you why. You don't think you have time, you may not know how, or you might not believe you are a good enough writer. When you're working with an experienced coach, these reasons go away because I will help you every step of the way. If you want to know more about how to write a nonfiction book, whether it's business, self-help, or how-to, reach out to me at www.briankWright.com for more information. Once again, that's briankWright.com.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles, if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. My very special guest this week is Vince Del Monte, and we are going to be talking about fitness and coaching and business and everything that goes with it. And if you have not downloaded and subscribed to Success Profiles Radio on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and do that. It's on iTunes. You can leave a review. That would be absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to hear from you. Please go ahead and do that. That'd mean a lot. So, Vince, let's talk about a book you wrote a few years ago. It's called Living Large, The Skinny Guy's Guide to No-Nonsense Muscle Building. What was your inspiration to write this? You were a skinny guy at one time, weren't you?
Yeah, Brian, I used to be nicknamed Skinny Vinny all through high school and university. Not the best place to be nicknamed Skinny Vinny. So I wrote that book for the younger version of Vince, the guy that couldn't gain his first 30 pounds of muscle. And I didn't know, could you do it drug-free? Did you need to take lots of supplements? Do you need to have great genetics? Do I have to train 2 hours a day like Arnold? I had all those questions, and fortunately, I met a mentor at my church of all places who essentially told me not to do everything the magazines were telling me to do. And I transformed my body naturally. And, when I did that transformation, there was no business plan. It was literally just a personal transformation. And that's when I became a personal trainer. So I thought it might help to look the part.
Yeah.
So after I, transformed my body, I got asked by a lot of people, how did you do it? And that eventually led to an ebook back in 2006 called No Nonsense Muscle Building. It became a best-selling ebook on ClickBank and sold literally tens of thousands of copies to over 100 countries. And many years later, being in the industry as a muscle building coach, I always wanted a best-selling book. I always wanted a book in bookstores because I grew up on books.
Yeah.
My dad grew us all up on books. So, yeah, I wrote this book called Living Large, and it's basically, as he said, a skinny guy's guide to building muscle the natural way. And it really is everything a beginner would need. There's done-for-you meal plans, a 30-week training program. It's funny, I was just at a friend's house yesterday, and my buddy's wife was saying, I just ordered your book for one of my nephews. He's 16 and he wants to build muscle. And then I told her a bit about the book, and she ended up ordering 4 more copies for his friends because they come and work out in her garage gym. So it's a great starting point for anybody that wants to build muscle naturally without living in the gym.
That's great. So how has writing this book changed your business? Because I'm a writer. I love asking that question.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, as an entrepreneur, I think we get caught up in systems, but what we miss out on is having what we call marketing assets.
Yeah.
A book is by far the best marketing asset that you can have. Like, nothing comes close because, I could talk an hour on this alone, but when somebody spends over an hour, or heck, not an hour, am I talking about maybe a couple hours consuming your material? One, these are pre-qualified people who understand your methodology. All right, they're going to have less sales resistance in the sales process. They are going to be the right person for your business. If they book a call to hear about your services, and they come ready to follow your way of doing things. And books are easily shared, and they elevate trust. They elevate trust. And prestige faster than anything else. So when you have a book, one, you're seen differently, but two, it's a great way to get your material into other people's hands. If you're looking at the business side of things, your ad costs are going to get lower. You can give away your book for free, liquidate all your ad spend, build up a customer list. They'll be able to get introduced to all your additional products and services when they come into your world. So, book buyers tend to spend more money as well because they're, consumers, and they're people that value education. And there's just like too many reasons to not write a book.
Absolutely.
Reasons to not write a book. Let me clarify that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that listen to the show on a pretty regular basis, you know that I help people write their books and put their books together. So you can reach out to me at brian@briankWright.com. Or you can schedule a call on my calendar, callwithbrian.com. I'd be glad to have that conversation with you. I love that list you just gave us, Vince. That's absolutely brilliant. So let me ask, all of us want to be in really good shape, but what gets in the way of that happening?
Oh man, that's a good question. So, everybody's got their own, I would call them, current settings, if you will.
Hmm.
And, for instance, I'm in Florida right now, and the days are longer here. The sun's out longer. There's more temptations in terms of restaurants and friends wanting to go out. So I think the first thing is to find a plan that works your lifestyle.
Hmm.
And, I'm a big believer in building muscle first, because when you build up muscle, your body's going to burn fat throughout the day. You're going to have, you'll be able to be more flexible with your diet. So I'm a big believer in finding a sustainable weight training routine that's built around adding new muscle tissue to your body. They say muscle helps increase the length of your life, the quality of your life, and cardio helps increase the length of your life. So after we build some weights into the routine, we want to find a nutrition plan that suits your lifestyle as well. So I'm big on fasting as well for weight management and for focus and for energy levels. So it really is, figuring out what your goal is and getting real clear on what type of plan will help you get started, and not, attempt to try and transform your body in 4 weeks, but, get an appreciation of how do I do this in a way where when I lose this weight, I'm going to keep it off. And, what we teach is slow equals fast.
Yeah.
So the slower you lose it, the more permanent the transformation will be.
That's great. I'd love to ask a quick question about intermittent fasting. Is that just a fancy way of saying I skipped breakfast, or is there a lot more to it than that?
Well, it could be. There's intermittent fasting is, when you're eating within a very predetermined period of time, typically a shorter eating window. So you could skip breakfast and eat, between 12 and 6, but there's other way. Your body doesn't know if you've skipped breakfast or dinner, but it does understand these periods of fasting where, essentially the food's been digested and then time kicks in. So, if you stop eating dinner at, say, 6 o'clock, right, the food hasn't been fully digested until, say, 8 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock. So the fast doesn't really kick in until then. So a true 24-hour fast would be 10 to 10.
Yeah.
So fasting is by far the probably most effective weight loss hack. And there's a ton of research that shows that it can also increase the length of your life because, well, your body's not busy digesting food all day. So incorporating some type of fast, whether it's once per week, once a month, whether it's a restrictive eating window, once per day. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but eating less food is the number one thing that science supports to increase the length of your life.
That's fantastic. A lot of people focus on the gym, but nutrition is just as important, if not more so, isn't it?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, they say you can't out-train a bad diet. It's super true. Right. So, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you're in the gym 4 hours a week, I mean, you can do the math on that, how many hours there are in the week. But I think that works out to maybe 3 or 4% of the week. So it really is. A lot of people, they train hard in the gym, and then they set themselves back 2 or 3 days, and they don't make that progress because, yeah, if you want to transform, the nutrition is. It's truly where it starts, right? It is true. They say abs are made in the kitchen because, you think about how long it takes to burn 500 calories on the treadmill. I mean, like, you got to bust your butt for 45 minutes where you could put a muffin down in about 3 seconds. You just offset those same 500 calories plus a whole bunch of other hormonal issues. So
right.
It really is making small and consistent changes in the kitchen and when you eat out that are going to help you keep the weight off. And what's interesting with the nutrition, tying back to the muscle, is that when you start to fuel your body, you can train harder. And I'm a big believer in not starving the fat off, but burning the fat off.
Yeah.
So when you're providing your body with sufficient fuel, you can actually train in a way that breaks down muscle tissue and builds new muscle tissue, which means your physique is going to look a lot different as well. So again, it goes back to losing weight slowly and kind of coaxing the gains and not trying to force things along. So it all works together in the end.
I love that. We've got less than 3 minutes to our next break. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions you see regarding building muscle?
You need to lift heavy weights to get bigger. I built a whole brand around the concept called baby weights. And, the body doesn't understand how much weight is on the bar. It doesn't understand, if you got 135 pounds or 185 pounds when you're benching, what your body understands is tension and fatigue within the muscle. So there's a lot of ways you can, if I'm doing a bench press and I'm contracting my pecs while I'm doing it, the weight can feel all of a sudden a lot heavier than it actually is. So, without getting too scientific, we want to create internal stress within the muscle. And that requires learning how to create intent inside a muscle. So I always say it's not what you do in the gym, it's how well you do it. It doesn't matter if you do 100 reps if they all suck.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. In the next segment, we're going to talk more about how you've built your business around fitness and helping fitness professionals. That is absolutely fantastic. I'd love to ask you real quick, we've got just maybe a minute and a half or so. Building and maintaining good relationships is such a great key to success, isn't it?
Building relationships is a huge key to success. I mean, right now I live close to two buddies that I've done business with for the last 10 years. And you can go out for dinner and, you can get one or two ideas that could, it could double your income next year. So I'm a huge believer that proximity is power, and being around people who are taking actions that you need to be taking. For instance, that has always been a weak spot in my business. These two guys, it's their superpower. So every time I'm around them, I'm just like, oh man, I got to get my numbers better. So proximity is probably the number one thing. I always say environment is everything. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Okay, we're coming up against our next break. My very special guest is Vince Del Monte, and we will talk about more when we come back. We're going to talk about how he helps fitness coaches build their business. Please stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? Surveys show that 81% of people wish they could, but many never do. If you're one of those people, I can tell you why. You don't think you have time, you may not know how, or you might not believe you are a good enough writer. When you're working with an experienced coach, these reasons go away because I will help you every step of the way. If you want to know more about how to write a nonfiction book, whether it's business, self-help, or how-to, reach out to me at www.briankwright.com for more information. Once again, that's briankwright.com.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
If you are in business, what is the number one thing that stops revenue growth? Not having enough leads. Data is the new gold rush. With phone sites, that is never an issue. You can generate as many leads as you want without paying a lead broker. With phone sites, you can build a website or sales funnel from your mobile device in 5 minutes or less without any technical skills or without downloading an app. It's easy and you have nothing to lose. Try it for free for 14 days at phonesites.com/Brian. Once again, that's phonesites.com/Brian.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles, if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. My very special guest is Vince Del Monte. We're talking about fitness. We're talking about business and personal development. And if you've not subscribed to Success Profiles Magazine, you can go to successprofilesmagazine.com And you can subscribe and read every single issue we've done going all the way back to December 2017. It is a monthly digital magazine, and you will not be disappointed. The next issue is going to be coming out here in the next 10 days or so, and I can't wait for you to read it. SuccessProfilesMagazine.com. So Vince, I would love to talk to you about how you earned millions of dollars just by working out. It's because you were able to spin this into a business and a bunch of products and services and coaching, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so my entire business model, Brian, was built around my own personal transformations. So we chatted about my first one. When I was Skinny Vinny, I went from 149 pounds to 190 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
And that was my very, very first muscle building transformation. And sure enough, that was my very first ebook, No Nonsense Muscle Building. If you buy that ebook, guess what program you're going to get? The exact same transformation program that I went through. So if you go through my entire business model, that's kind of like one of my unique things. My second program was called Maximize Your Muscle. And this was a 16-month continuity program. And it was basically how I broke a plateau. I was stuck at 190 for a long time. And just like my customers were stuck after they went through their first transformation, well, I provided the solution to them just like I needed the solution myself. And if you go through 10 years of programs, I did that over and over, including a pretty extreme fat loss transformation. I bulked up to 227. And I told my whole audience, I said, hey, guys, I'm going to get ripped and compete and get my pro card. Who wants to see me do it? So I created an anticipation around this event and, essentially put a gun to my head.
Wow.
To actually do it. And then over the course of 16 weeks, I went from 227 down to 195. And I documented my entire transformation over a 16-week period, and I created a product out of it called Stage Shredded Status. And not to impress people or anything like that, but just to kind of give people, an appreciation of the power of that strategy. Because I get a lot of people who ask me, hey, I want to be an online fitness coach, Vince, but I'm not certified yet. And I tell people, okay, definitely do that. That's nothing wrong with that. But what people are ultimately looking for is, can you solve their problem?
Yeah.
So when I launched that program, I think that program made over 70 grand in the first 3 hours, just because there was a huge lineup of people wanting the program that they had just watched come to be. So I always tell people that your business model should be built around who you were, not too long ago, essentially a younger version of yourself. And that's how I built my entire fitness business brand. All of my programs were essentially programs that were built around transformations that I wanted to go through myself. And people have so much trust because they see the photos and they see that you're not just selling a program, but you're responding to what your audience is asking you for, which is, hey, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? Are you going to show us how you got work? Can you give us your workouts? Can you give us the meal plans? And the answer is yes. And then you build marketing around that, around those offers. So, if you look at my business, it's the same thing. I have the 7-figure mastermind because that's the number one question online fitness coaches ask me, how did you do it? So I'm one of the only online fitness business coaches who's actually built multiple 7-figure online fitness businesses. So my products are simply an extension of who I am and what I did to help myself. And that's why, I don't have to sell, I don't have to use salesy tactics, if you will, to get people's attention because, the proof's in the pudding. You have the pictures and you just invite them. Hey, do you want to know how I did it? And people say yes.
Wow. I love that. So what does it take to build a 7-figure mastermind? Obviously, you have to have a lot of content in place, but you have to have your audience in place too. How do you build all that?
That's great. So, I teach something called the one-way play, and this could be applicable to, anybody listening who's a business owner. And in order to scale a high-ticket coaching program like ours, our program is, the 5-figure level. I learned this from doing it the wrong way. First of all, we used to let anybody into the program. So, someone selling digital ebooks, course creators, people in fitness, people in real estate, people in, Etsy business, like all over the map. And I realized that I don't have a system for all these different business owners. So what I do have a system for is how to scale high ticket. So everybody inside the 7-figure mastermind is scaling high ticket. They're selling their knowledge for a premium. And 98% of our students are all in fitness. So we essentially said, decided to serve one audience. Actually, let me give you a better one, 5 different P's. We decided to focus on helping one person who had one specific problem with one specific promise, with one specific program, with one unique process. So that's the one-way play. So everybody who comes into our world, essentially, we have everybody doing the exact same steps, and then we support them with one-on-one calls to like tweak different things. But like everybody's following the same meal plan, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you grow a high-ticket coaching program, when you specialize on helping one type of person, because again, you can build your program with a curriculum. So you can have one of two things. You can have client dictated chaos, or you can have coach directed curriculum. Because I've built multiple 7-figure fitness businesses, I know what steps you need to take. So we have everybody work through those steps in phases. And that's how we're able to coach so many people, because again, people are eating off the same meal plan.
Yeah. I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. So what books and resources can you recommend to help people build an online business if they want to do that?
I'll give you some easy reads. So I love Russell Brunson's stuff, like Expert Secrets that's a go-to book.
Yeah.
He had the one before .com, which was about building funnels. But the problem with that is that you have to be an attractive character in order for a funnel to convert. So his book, Expert Secrets, teaches you how to utilize your story, how to create an us versus them, narrative, and just to really get people to buy into who you are and why you do what you do. So long story short, a nice way to say, I guess the most blunt way to say this is most people who are putting content out there are very boring.
Yes.
Especially fitness coaches. It's very sterile. And they're just like talking like, sets and reps and biomechanics and anatomy. It's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you right now, you probably know this too, Brian, that the most highly paid online fitness coaches and influencers are not the most educated.
Right.
And not to say you don't want to be educated, but you have to understand that people want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And that's, Expert Secrets really teaches you how to be that attractive leader and charismatic individual that people want to follow. I'll go through a few more quick ones.
Yeah.
How to write sales copy. That's an excellent, good read for anybody who doesn't know what copywriting is or wants to learn how to persuade more effectively. How to write copy that sells. I believe it's called actually by Ray Edwards.
Okay.
That's another good one. For leadership, one of my own coaches, Bedros Keuilian, wrote called Man Up.
Yep.
Man Up's excellent to really just figure out, where you're the bottleneck in your own growth. And a lot of business owners, operate from a place of survival and scarcity, limiting beliefs and trying to control instead of building leaders and having a vision and knowing the path. And that's a whole new world for me. So, that book that was really, really helpful. And man, I got so many different books. Depends on the category. Those books are going to get you started. If you want, those are like 3 mandatory books we have for our online fitness coaches, because they have a lot of the fundamentals that you just have to get before. Like you could live off of those 3 books for, to be honest, first few years.
That's great. I love that. So let's just say you're building your business, you're in business growth mode, and then all of a sudden things start to plateau. How do you fix the plateau when it happens?
That's a great question too. So we believe in data, not dialogue. Or another way to put that one is data, not drama. So we have to figure out what's constraining the bottleneck, right? If you think of a faucet, where specifically is the water getting stuck so that it's not coming out. And, we teach something called the C4 method. It's really actually quite simple. To sell high ticket, you need content, you need conversations, you need calls, and you need to collect cash. So if we're looking at someone's business, we have to identify what part of the faucet, if you will, is being constrained. So let's just use an example. Let's say somebody's content's really good, and they've also got a lot of conversations happening, and they're even booking calls, and those people are showing up for their call, but they only have a 30% close rate. Well, the constraint is that we need to spend the next year on sales and getting you up to a point where you're closing at 70%. So just say hypothetically, you came into my coaching program for a whole year. If you just focused on getting your closing rate from 30% to 70%, we didn't even touch your content. We didn't even focus on having more productive conversations. And we didn't even talk about creating a more efficient sales system. You just increase your closing percentage. Well, your income might double or triple.
Yeah. That's great.
And that's how we help people grow their businesses. We identify what's constraining their income the most right now. And what most entrepreneurs do is they try and fix all those 4 things at once. We'll spend at least 3 to 6 months dialing in each one of these until it's a well-oiled machine. And then we'll shift our focus to another one of these.
That's fantastic. I love that. We've got less than a minute to the break. And could you tell us real quickly how being broke can lead to growth?
How broke can lead to growth? Well, staying broke will help you operate from less. And when you have less, you manage better. And I believe in living broke, but not poor. So living broke means you're reinvesting. So I don't keep much money in my bank account. As money comes in, we reinvest it into different income streams or into the company. So we operate, it's like having less food in the house. The less food that's in the house, the less food you're going to eat, right? So eat off of smaller plates, operate the business off of smaller accounts, if you will.
That's great. And we are against our break. We'll be right back. This is Success Profiles Radio.
The mission is to motivate and inspire others to discover their unique talents and follow their dreams in life. This is Success Profiles Radio.
If you are in business, what is the number one thing that stops revenue growth? Not having enough leads. Data is the new gold rush. With phone sites, that is never an issue. You can generate as many leads as you want without paying a lead broker. With phone sites, you can build a website or sales funnel from your mobile device in 5 minutes or less without any technical skills or without downloading an app. It's easy and you have nothing to lose. Try it for free for 14 days at phonesites.com/Brian. Once again, that's phonesites.com/Brian.
Welcome back to Success Profiles Radio. So many people live their lives wanting more than they currently have. And this show will clearly demonstrate the principles, if I can do it, you can do it. So let's get back to the show. This is Success Profiles Radio. And here again is your host, Brian K. Wright.
And we are back. This is Success Profiles Radio. My very special guest this week is Vince Del Monte, and we are talking about fitness and business. So, Vince, I would love to ask, as we are coming down the stretch, how do you turn your passion into real money?
Well, that's a great question. I think the big thing to understand with passion is that, I always ask myself, what could I do the rest of my life for free? Or if somebody put a gun to my head and said, you could only do one thing the rest of your life, what would it be? And if you start to figure out like where your answers come from, it's likely going to be related to a very painful part of your past. Now, why is that? Because you've likely had a transformation in your life and it's literally changed your life. And I don't know anybody in life that doesn't want to change their life. So you're going to show up the most passionately because that's where your purpose is. I always say your purpose is found in your pain, right? So my pain was being skinny, and I figured out how to not be skinny. And that's why I was able to build a muscle building business for over 12 years. I didn't get bored of that. People are like, aren't you getting bored of that? I'm like, this is who I am. Muscle changed my life, right? And now I'm in the world of helping business owners build their online fitness businesses because that's what also changed my life.
Yeah.
So I'm in a new chapter of my life and I'm like, I don't see any end in sight. So I think, you really tap into like what's changed your life. Anytime someone says, I don't know what I should do with my life. I would just, want them to reflect on, well, what have you done in your life that's truly changed your life? Because that's where you're going to be able to have the greatest amount of influence. And that's where you're going to show up the strongest you, because that's your story.
Yeah. I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. I would love to ask you about your morning routine. I ask a lot of guests, how do you set your day up for success? But your routine is really elaborate, and I really want to spend some time on this. So what time do you get up to start with?
All right. Well, Brian, I'm in Florida right now, so we have a little different schedule. So right now, I've been known as the guy who gets up at 4 a.m. every day, 3:55 specifically when I was in Toronto. And the reason I did that was because I needed a 3-hour jump start before my kids would wake up. And my schedule here in Florida is a little different because these days seem to be a little longer and the weather's so nice we're staying up a little later. But, my morning routine's built around what I call money later tasks. Now, money later tasks are tasks that will generate revenue in your business 30 days out in the future or beyond. So it is not money maintenance tasks, which would be things that would just pay the bills today, or what I call money now tasks, which are things that would generate income in the next 1 to 30 days. It would be what you do, writing a book.
Yes.
Writing a book would be something that generates you income in 30 plus days, 60, 90 days from now, but that asset would pay you back indefinitely. A video sales letter would be another, example, a marketing funnel, a new component to your program, making your product better. Those are all things that do not have instant gratification. So you start the first 2 to 3 hours of your day on something that does not produce gratification. It is something that will produce recurring revenue in the future, revenue in the future that will reduce the resistance you experience today in your life. So that's how I structure the day, focusing on things that will produce wealth down the road. And I do it when I'm the most focused, when I have zero distractions. And I have a number of little hacks that I utilize, including cold showers, bright lights, delaying caffeine. There's a number of things that I do, Baroque music to enhance brain power, that I do to ensure that that time is highly effective and make sure there's no other windows open. I know what I need to do before I start the day the night before, so it's all scripted out. So when I go upstairs to start making breakfast for the kids at 7 or 7:15, I've already won the day.
Yeah.
And if I don't get if the rest of the day, and for most entrepreneurs, anyone listening knows that 70% of your day is spent putting out fires. That's what you signed up for as an entrepreneur. You're a problem solver. So the rest of my day can be spent putting out fires and not getting to the end of my day and saying, I didn't even work on my business. So you spend the first 3 hours of your day working on your business, not in your business.
That's brilliant. I love that very much. So let me ask you, this is one of my favorite questions to ask. How important is gratitude to your creativity and your productivity?
Oh, I believe gratitude is a strategy.
Yes.
And I believe that, what you appreciate appreciates. And it's, I think right now with social media, it's so easy to get so caught up in what everybody else is doing. And you can really get lost in, where you're at and running your own race. As a runner, I'm a huge believer in staying in your lane. And it's okay to be aware of like how other people are doing, but you just, you've been given a certain set of gifts and you've been called to a certain path. And I'm a huge believer in just really appreciating that you're exactly where you need to be. And you're not too far ahead. You're not too far behind. You're exactly where you're at based on how well you're stewarding your gifts. And I think that just recognizing what you have every single day and who you're becoming, and specifically the things that, the world can't measure. Our world measures efficiency and effectiveness. Like the world doesn't measure, the way your kids run into your arms when you come home from work at night, and that, your wife looks up to you and she admires you, and that, she's secretly super, super proud of you around her friends that are going through rough marriages, and she can't say anything because she feel like she's bragging or something. Like the world doesn't measure that stuff, right?
Right.
So you really have to appreciate that you're creating something that goes beyond just your metrics.
Yeah.
and something that is really positively influencing the people around you. So I always try not to lose too much sight. I got a lot of friends who are like, very, 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 successful financially, but, I've seen them, really wreck their health and their relationships. And I'm like, I call it the paradox of progress.
Yeah.
They're moving forward in one area of their life, but they're going backwards in all the most important areas. So are they really progressing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I would love to ask you about your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about this. What inspired you to start this, and what is the focus of it?
So I started a podcast a couple of years ago called the Vince Del Monte Podcast Show, and it focuses on the 5 M's of manhood: muscle, mindset, money, mission, and marriage. And in my mind, those are 5 M's that will help each man become better for their own life and for the people around them. And I launched that after I'd spent 12 years being muscle building coach, and I was starting to become a business coach. And this was kind of the way I hybrided the two worlds, because I was starting to talk about muscle and money quite a bit. I didn't have a brand for it, so we called it, M5. And this was the way I was distinguishing myself from, my competition. I wasn't the one-dimensional muscle building coach. If you come on my YouTube channel, I'll talk about other things other than just muscle. So one of my mentors taught me, if you don't show up different, you don't show up at all.
Yeah.
So I used to suffer comparison syndrome and be like, yeah, but so-and-so, they don't talk about marriage and they don't talk about money. They just talk about muscle. I got to be more like them because their business is bigger than mine. And I probably just need to stop having those conversations. Like, no, that's who I am. I'm not a one-dimensional fitness, muscle building coach. And there's nothing right or wrong about either approach, but owning who you are and how you're leading is very crucial to being successful. And I just own that a big part of who I am is these 5 M's, and I enjoy talking about these 5 M's. So I decided to launch a podcast that allowed me to have conversations with guests that were just not around building muscle or just around making money.
I love that. How do you decide what to say yes and no to?
Oh man, you're throwing me all the easy ones here today, eh? I mean, it really comes down to, I like the definition of focus from the book, The One Thing, that your yes is defended by, the definition of focus is defending your one yes with 1,000 no's. I really like to look at things in terms of constraints, back to how do you build somebody's business. I really like to ask, if I don't do this, will it prevent me from achieving my goal?
Yeah.
And that's a really, really elegant question, and it's very powerful, and it'll help you likely come up with the right answer. So if I don't do this right now, will it prevent me from growing my business? And right now we need better visibility on where our leads are coming from, because we get leads from my podcast, from my email, from Instagram, from Facebook, and we do have a tracking process, but it's not as granular as it needs to be. So I could get tempted right now to go create some more content, which is what I'm comfortable doing, or I could follow up with my data guy and get an update on, hey, where are we at? How can I support you? So I think, what do I say yes to? It'd be easy to go outside and shoot a quick live because that's my comfort level. But
Yes.
It's tough for me to dig into these numbers and become data driven, because it's just not like really who I am. But I need to figure this out in order for us to grow. So I have to say yes to the stuff that is constraining my ability to grow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We've got less than 2 minutes until the end. And so here's the question I ask everybody. Who inspires and motivates you, Vince?
I think it's my dad.
Hmm.
I mentioned him a few times, and I think I value my father. Of all the people I respect my parents, by far the most. But my dad specifically, because he's put relationships before everything else. He's got a group of friends that he's had for over 40 years, and he's had breakfast with the same small group of guys every Thursday for decades. And my dad is he invests into people, and he helps people align their souls, their roles, and their goals. And I think what my dad does really, he was a pastor, is that he'd call himself in the Christian world they call him a disciple. So a disciple is a guide, like a shepherd. You actually come alongside and you actually sit down beside them and you have those deep conversations. Again, those conversations that don't show up on social media. That don't get those 5-star reviews, but they're the conversations that produce breakthroughs in people's lives. So I think I've always respected my father because he's willing to sit down and go deep on the relationship and not just kind of skim the surface.
Awesome. We're at the end. Thank you, Vince, for being here. And thanks to all of you for listening. This has been Success Profiles Radio. Please join us every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where I interview another world-class achiever, learn what they did, what they overcame, and what we can learn from their journey. Until next week, have a good one. Take care.
Thank you for being a part of Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright. Each week, we'll explore different aspects of success and how to apply them to your life. We'll have guests that will come from many different backgrounds, including expertise in leadership, business, relationships, careers, networking, health, overcoming adversity, and much more. For more on Brian and the show, check out his website, briankwright.com. If you've ever wondered if there's more to life than you're currently living, then Success Profiles Radio is the program for you. Join us again next week for more Success Profiles Radio with your host, Brian K. Wright.